When I was a kid, around 7 to 8, I remember my dad would take me to Blockbusters all the time to pick all sorts of videos, CDs, but mainly I would be allowed to choose a PC game. I don't mean one of these big fancy games like Skyrim. I mean boring educational games or stupid pixel games. Yeah, this is a different generation of games I'm talking about. So I remember one day going with my dad to get another game, and this time I was allowed to choose about three of them since there apparently was a big sale on. I happily chose my games, and those were Amazon Trail Rainforest Adventures, Barbie Supermodel, and Adam and the Tree Climbers. I remember when I got home I played the hell out of them, but the one I used to play the most was Adam and the Tree Climbers. From what I remember, the game was a pixel game where the objective was to climb all the trees and collect all the fruit trophies on top. Depending on what level you played, you would get a different tree. It was pretty simple to start with, but as the levels progressed, you would have another tree climber join your party, which meant that you had to be careful to make sure they weren't knocked off the frickin' tree. It was fun and I enjoyed the hell out of it, but the days of playing those games were long gone. Recently, I was moving out of my parents' house to move into my own flat, and I had to go through loads of boxes to see which stuff I wanted to take and what I thought I wasn't needed. In the process, I had dug through a large old box and found our old computer. It was one of those bulky kinds, the big boxy ones where the monitor was as wide as a 90s TV. Hewlett-Packard. In the box was the keyboard, mouse, and at the bottom in its own little plastic tub was all my old PC games. I decided I wanted to take a look at these games again for nostalgia, but I would set it up when I got to my flat. The moving process was fine, and when I finally sorted out a few days later, I set up the old bulky PC in my bedroom and began to dig through the old games. Many titles were there. Blockad, Bookie Bookworm. I wasn't interested in those, though. I just wanted to play some good old Adam and the Tree Climbers. So after a 20-minute load up of the PC and getting the old disc to work after so many years, I saw the bright title screen pop up. Although I never noticed it as a kid, I found it quite strange how there was a lack of a company copyright and there was no sight of Adam and the Tree Climbers. But regardless, I clicked enter and continued to the saved files menu. To my surprise, my old files still remain there, and it told me the date I last played, 5/8/2004. I would have been 8 at the time, so I decided to continue from where I left off and started with a cutscene of Adam and the four tree climbers, TCs for short, I guess. The TCs looked rather nervous, well, from what I could make out from their pixelated faces. As they began to explain, they were too scared to go and fight the tree caller, quote unquote. I was rather confused as I couldn't remember making it all the way to the last level yet, and the tree caller was mentioned through most of the levels being very, very evil. I wasn't planning on playing the game for long anyway, so I continued on to the level, and Adam and the TCs began to climb a very dark oak tree. The branches were covered in bugs, snakes, spikes, and there were little mice throwing what looked like hammers at you. I assumed this was on easy mode because I was getting through the level with no problems. I was actually quite bored, so I went to turn it off and try another game. But before I turned it off, I noticed one of the TCs shouting, "Oh no, the tree is calling!" And I noticed now how the branches were completely bare. There were no enemies, and the oak had been replaced with plain black branches that would curl and hit you. The game became incredibly hard now, as I had already lost all of my TCs, and now it was just Adam left. When I reached the top of the tree, the game made a straight low buzzing sound, sort of like when a TV is waiting for something to load, and I heard Adam's rather broken up voice call out, "Oh no, the tree caller!" What followed had to be the most deranged boss I'd ever seen, at least for a kid's game. The black branches weren't branches at all, but the tree caller's hands and fingers where the trophy would have been was his bright white head with piercing white eyes and a disturbing grin. When it began to speak, the only sound that came out was the same buzzing sound I had heard moments before. I found it very unsettling, and it was out of place with the rest of the game. But regardless, I tried to fight it, but no matter what I did, it would just keep smacking at him back until I finally ran out of life. But unlike the normal game over screen with just plain green text, the tree caller just stayed on screen, just staring right into my eyes. It made no sound, and I tried to open the menu, but I couldn't. I assumed the game had crashed, so I ejected the disc, but the tree caller remained on screen. The same low buzz sound slowly began to play once again, but now a small text box popped up above its head saying, "You're mine now," before it let out a screech of pixelated mess as its face slowly moved closer to the screen. Startled, I switched off my PC and put the disc back in its case and turned the PC back on. I was just anxious to play another game to take my mind off of it. I logged back in, but what followed startled me so badly I almost fell off my chair. The desktop background had been replaced with the tree caller, and the words "Your Mind" flooded the screen. I quickly turned off the PC, packed it all away, and made sure not to go on it again. A couple of days later, I decided to do some research up on Adam and the Tree Climbers, but I couldn't find a single trace of this game online. I went back to where Blockbuster used to be, but now sadly it was replaced with another game store. But I went in anyway and asked the people there about the game and if they had any archives on the game itself. They said they know nothing about the game, but they do have the Blockbuster's archive book since it was given to the owner when it was found in the back room. When I got home and looked inside, but to no avail, there was no such thing as Adam and the Tree Climbers. So I gave up on it all completely and assumed that it just had an independent game. But when I went to put the book away, it flipped to the back page. At the back was a listing of games that were withdrawn or banned from selling. There was only one game on its list. And you can guess what it was. Adam and the Tree Climbers.